By the way, to turn off the white lantern effect, you can click the Gizmos button toggle above the scene view. Cool. Next, we only want to spawn these flame particles while the transform is moving, or while the game object is moving, rather than just having it spawn stationarily. So, we'll disable constant spawn over here. Now left click here, spacebar, and we'll add a new node called spawn over distance. Now, spawn over distance spawns particles only when the game object is moving, or when it's moved a certain minimum amount. In order to detect that amount, we'll link the change space node, or at least its output, to the node's position input. So left click here on this yellow dot and drag it right here. This is how it knows when it's moving. Next, in spawn, originally we had it spawning about 16-ish, but right now we have 10. We could change this to 16, but it might be more useful to make this an external variable. That means instead of having to come to this graph, we can edit it from the inspector directly instead. It'll appear over here. So let's do that now. Left click and drag over here. We'll change this to a float. And we'll right click and choose Convert to Exposed Property. Now, what this does is in the blackboard at the top right, if you click it, we see the properties or variables, depending on how you want to look at them, appear in here. If we click it over here, we can name it rate, and it will rechange it over there. And now the default value is 10. Let's change it back to 16. Okay. Now, if we go to the inspector and click on the visual cube, rate now appears. So we can change it from the inspector without returning to the visual effect graph. Of note, if you haven't already set the capacity to 1000, make sure that you do here, since this number must be higher than the number of particles you wish to display on screen at any given moment. If we run out, we can't create more until the old ones disappear. Also, let's change the flame rate to 30 for now. I feel like this feels more flamey, but without overdoing it. Next, we can turn the constant spawn rate back on, but let's change the rate to 4, just so we have an idea of where the object is sitting. After that, we'll add an add node right here and connect the change space into its A slot, and the output we'll put into set position. The reason we're doing this is so we can create an offset, vector 3, that will become an exposed property in the blackboard so that we can control its position from the inspector. If we switch over to the inspector, we now have an offset. We can use that to manipulate the position of the fire if we need it. Now, we're going to add an event node. Right click, create node, event. Now, event nodes represent events we can call from a C# script. When called, they can activate a system within the VFX graph. In this case, we'll use our events to start and stop the flow of main particles. So drag from here to the start portion. And let's also add a second event and drag it to the stop portion. The events often have names, so here we'll rename it to start and here we'll rename it to stump. Note that once you attach an event like this to the start, the system will no longer start automatically unless that event name, start, is also set under initial event name. However, if we need to test an event, we can always press the buttons on the event themselves. Another important note, whenever you see an asterisk up here in the name of the visual effect, it means that it hasn't been saved yet. And that part is important because you don't want to lose your work. So in order to save it, simply click the Save button. Voila! And of course, don't forget to save your scene. Either Control S or go to File in the top left and save. In the next section, we're going to begin C# scripting for additional control over the visual effect we've made. Hi! Congrats on finishing another episode. The link should be in the description below. And if you enjoyed the content, please remember to like, subscribe, and/or share.